Okay, welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to have you all here. And Bianca, I'm super grateful and excited that you have joined us. I wanted to share a little story before we get going. And that was that, we were on a wealth weekend back in, I think March of 2024. And we were sitting in a wine farm somewhere in Stellenbosch. And Anthony, who's part of Callio Capital, the family office, said to me, we do this whole Enneagram report with our clients. And what we had tried really hard, they managed about 65 families, money, touching on $1 billion. And what we tried really hard was to model everything they did and kind of copy the process. Because in logic, if you do what successful people do, you're going to get the same results, arguably, as what successful people get. And so I'm sitting with Anthony, and he mentions this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not in our mastermind process. Like, why doesn't that exist? And anyway, so that was about March of 2024. And after that, Bianca and Karen and myself and the team and Alex, et cetera, all sat down and we went, well, how do we integrate this into our process? And I'm super grateful to you, Bianca, because you've been one of the drivers behind this. And, as we, went through, I don't remember the exact months, but sort of May, June, July, we rolled this out and implemented this into all of the mastermind clients. And it's now become something that has almost become institutionalized, both at a Callio Capital level, but also at a mastermind level, where every single client goes through this process. Now, why am I grateful to Bianca is that if that's what the top 1% are doing, then surely you should be doing it as well. Like, that would be my logic, Now, and so what we've tried to do, and where we're very aligned with Bianca and Karen and Garth and Anthony and the team and everyone at Callio, is that it's about empowering everyone to be able to invest like the top 1%. And so really the purpose of this bonus session, and I want to share my slides with you quickly, and then I'm going to hand over to Bianca, is, so the purpose of this session is a bonus session, and we call it Wealth EQ. And we're doing it specifically with our partners, Callio Consulting, because, so many of us have done personality exercises. Many of us, almost all of us, have gone out and done a personality exercise. But this is a practical way to understand how your personality actually affects your wealth decisions, how it impacts your risk behavior, how your blind spots and your long-term wealth path all come together. Bianca is going to go deeper into explaining the explanation. And my role at the start is simply to explain why this matters and why we want you to have access to it, because we believe that it's critically important in terms of that process. So this is the reason that it matters. Wealth is not only about returns, products, markets, and tax structures. Your behavior matters. Your personality matters. Your relationship with risk, control, trust, fear, opportunity, and discipline matters. What is your money story? This is why we use a different kind of work at the family office level and inside our mastermind. It gives people deeper understanding of themselves so that their wealth plan is more personalized and far more likely to be implemented properly. I'll give you a little example. Some people like a huge amount of detail, and some people like it to be brief. If you send me a report that's 30 pages, I'm not going to read it. So I'm a type of person that needs it brief. If you send it to Alex, my partner, he likes a lot of detail. So if you send it to him brief, he's not going to trust you. What becomes really important is that if it becomes personalized, you're going to be able to get far better results in terms of this. So you can see all of the things here: money patterns, shape decisions, risk tolerances, behavioral, not mathematical. Blind spots often cost more than poor information. Self-awareness creates better decisions and better strategy. And when it's used at this higher level, which we use at both the family office level and at the mastermind level, because it allows us to personalize the entire plan, the strategy, the execution, and ultimately the results. And the core idea here is that we want your wealth EQ to become a critical part of your wealth DNA. So we've done your personal DNA, we've done your business DNA, and we're now embarking upon doing your wealth DNA in terms of this process. So let's just get on the same, language and why this is important. Again, Tony Robbins says, if you want to be successful, copy a successful person. If you want to be wealthy, copy a wealthy person. For our mastermind members, you've already done this. Most of you have already got your wealth EQ, you've already got your asset income model. That's perfect. We're literally just going to show you how to program this all into your AI clone, into your wealth DNA, so that you can use it immediately. For those of you who are making a wealth clone, this is going to be so much more powerful because now you're going to have all the tools at your fingertips. So the mastermind members, you can pat yourself on the back because you've already got access to all this information. And rather than just understanding your numbers, this is now going to literally provide you with the frameworks and the decisions and the clarity to be able to take it to the next level. For everyone else who's not a mastermind member, this is going to, tonight, we're going to give you a special offer where we're going to try and give you access to the same information, the same reports, so that you too can get the same access that the higher level clients have. Because at the end of AI Wealth, once you've finished AI Wealth, we want you to have the substance. It's going to be your choice as to whether you want to put the different pieces of the puzzle together that we have at a mastermind level. That's your choice. Let me explain quickly what we do at both a family office level and at a mastermind level. Firstly, we create what's called a multifaceted human-first approach. Okay, now how does that work? And in simple terms, it's all about creating a personalized wealth plan. The very first thing that they start off with is the Wealth EQ, literally what we're going through tonight. I want to show you how important this is. It's the first primary leg upon which this table is built. Then they sit down and they understand your portfolio. What is in your portfolio? What assets do you have? What taxes do you have? What liabilities do you have? Pensions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They look at your entire portfolio. And then finally, they help you build an asset income model. It's called a life asset income model. So life aim. I quite like the way Anthony says it. You're aiming on where you want to go. And this takes you right through to the age of 99. And why I'm showing you this is because I'm trying to show you how important this Wealth EQ is in the entire process and why tonight is so important for you too to get access to your Wealth EQ. So here's a sneak preview. What Bianca's going to share with you is the ability to be able to get the Enneagram report. Now, there's lots of Enneagram reports out there. They work with the IEQ9, and I'll let Bianca explain why. But in my opinion, based on everything I know from them, it's the best you can get. And on top of that IEQ9 report, which is your Enneagram report, you're also going to get a Wealth EQ report, which is who you are as an investor, how you behave, why you make the certain decisions. But I'm not going to steal Bianca's thunder. I'm just going to share with you. And we're literally going to show you later how you can get access to both of those reports, the Wealth EQ report and the Enneagram report for $97. So I'm going to show you a link. You can get access to those reports. And we'll, once Bianca's finished, but I just want to give you upfront as to how you can go about this. And then you're going to have two options at the end of this evening. The first option is you can just buy the reports. I don't know about you, but I'm the type of guy that, gets the reports and I read them and I'm like, I don't really understand them. And so if you want to have a private consultation, you can. There's an upgrade for a private consultation. I would strongly, strongly recommend this. In 2024, I had my private consultation with Bianca. And then I had one with Corin. And, some people use these type of words in sort of platitudes. I don't. When I say it's a life-changing moment, it truly was a life-changing moment. It was August 2024, and Bianca and Corin showed me where the gaps were. I was feeling very stuck in my life at the time. They showed me exactly where the gaps were, and they showed me exactly what to do. And within 1 month, I implemented the action. I flew over to America and a whole bunch of other things. And my life literally took off like a rocket ship from 2024. So my wish for all of you is that not only do you get access to the reports, but you get access to their decades worth of intelligence on how to understand the reports and how to implement them. But Bianca, they didn't come here to hear from me tonight. So I want to hand over to you and just say a massive gratitude again for you being here. And I really look forward to you sharing the science behind this Wealth EQ and why this is so important. And then again, afterwards, I'll drop the link into the chat for anyone now that wants to go and buy the reports. I would strongly recommend it. It's some of the best money you can spend in terms of knowing yourself and getting better. But what is most important is now understanding, from Bianca, why this is so important. I just want to let everyone know we've got the solution on how you can get the reports later. Over to you, Bianca. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott. I'm able to share. Yes.
Yep.
All right, lovely. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much, Scott, for that introduction. Lovely to see lots of familiar faces in the participant list as well. So welcome back to those of you who I've met before and who've interacted with us before. I'm sorry if we're going to be repeating some of the same information, but I'm still learning around Enneagram and Wealth EQ as we go. So there's always something to be learned and something to be shared. Just to start off by saying a big thank you to Scott and the Wealth Migrate team. We've been working together for a long time now, a good couple of years. And as Scott says, this has really been quite an organic process. Partnering together on a wealth level is one thing, but partnering together on a wealth EQ level has been a totally different experience and something that I think has enriched both of our businesses and both of our mindsets and outlooks in terms of how we approach wealth and finances and legacy and generational wealth and planning and all of these good things that we talk about. As Scott said, it kind of dates back a good couple of years where this conversation and this thought process around finances, wealth, money, our relationship with that, and the humans behind that. On an advisory level, we're often working with spreadsheets and profit and margins and ROI and all of these good things that go into building a portfolio. And one of the questions that kept coming up, and this was a lot of the time from Garth, who heads up Calio. The question was around, how do we bring the human back into the room? How do we escape the drudgery of just the spreadsheets and the black and white and the numbers and looking at all of those good things? How do we actually bring the human back into this? Because this is what it is all about at the end of the day. We underpin this with the human side of it. Our relationship with wealth, our relationship with money comes from somewhere. Very often from our childhood years, very often from those formative years, very often formed quite early on because of those early childhood experiences. And this was where for us it made so much sense to overlay the Enneagram with wealth. What is my relationship with wealth? Because we all know wealth is an emotional subject. And until we understand ourselves and understand where that drive, where that behavior, where that motivation is coming from, we can't really understand how to build wealth, how to hang on to wealth, how to build something that lasts forever, how to leave that legacy behind for our children. What does it mean to me? What does it mean to them? What does this mean to us as a family? So as it states over here, Wealth EQ really does help us understand that relationship with wealth. Looking at, in terms of us at Calio Consulting, what it is that we do, we study human beings. We work with a system with a system, I guess, that we call intelligence modeling. At the base of it, it is being able to study human beings inside systems, having a look at an ecosystem, because that is where we exist as human beings, in a school system, in a family system, in a work environment, whatever that might look like. What is our role in that? What is our positioning in that? Inside the family, inside the organization, inside that wealth aspect, and being able to, at the center of what we do, look at the high-performing person. So with our sort of intelligence modeling, we base this on the 4 quadrants of intelligence that we work with at Calio. So we have IQ. Everyone knows what that is. Oh, how do I change my slides here? So we look at how individuals, teams, families, and organizations function across these 4 critical dimensions. Because ultimately, when one of these dimensions is underdeveloped, that performance will falter, that performance will break down. And at the center of this diagram over here, we have what we call the high-performing person. Being able to look at how these 4 quadrants are feeding into this person at the center of it. We don't just want someone to be high-performing at work or at home or within themselves. What does wealth actually look like? What does wellness actually mean to us as human beings? It's not just about money. Wealth is material wealth, yes. It is also about our health. It's about our mental health. It's about our mindset. It's about our interpersonal relationships. It's the fundamentals of those intelligence centers that we build around, and use the Enneagram as a sort of a diagnostic around that. So these 4 areas of intelligence that we work with, IQ, EQ, AQ, and SQ, we've all heard the first 2 very much very much out there. Our intelligence quotient, the ability to think strategically, analyze information, problem solve, make decisions, all of those things. Our EQ, our emotional quotient, measures our ability to understand ourselves and others, being able to self-regulate, being able to be self-aware, being able to stand in where I am in life right now and understand my impact on the world and the impact on the people around me. It's our emotional response to the world. We then have a spiritual quotient, which is very much kind of hinges on our personal meaning, our values, purpose. Who am I in all of this? It as it says there, governs our deeper questions about, that ask why we do what we do. What are the motivations behind that? Does this feel right? Is this me? Does this represent who I am? And then finally, the agility quotient, which measures our ability to adapt. How resilient are we? How under stress, under strain, in times of uncertainty, what is our ability to evolve, to be agile, to move with the times, to be able to keep that kind of open mindset? And these are the four aspects, or the four centers of intelligence that we use to measure what effectively is at the center of that, the high performing person. So being able to think clearly, being able to lead well, being able to adapt to change, being able to act with purpose, being able to be high performing in every aspect of our worlds. And this is very much where we use the Enneagram as a diagnostic tool for that. So where does wealth fit in with all of this? Our financial behavior is very much shaped by how we think, how we react, how we relate, how we define meaning, and how we respond to uncertainty. That report that Scott showed you a little bit earlier, you will have seen that it had 3 different numbers on it. So what we do in terms of the Enneagram and the way that we work at Calio is we very much work with the nuance and complexity of the system. We don't just say to somebody, well, you're a type 7, so that's who you are, that's how you fit in, and this is how we're going to understand you based on that 7 core, as an example. We work with what we call the tri-type, because we want to look at the integrated human, because we want to look at the entire human being. We are, at our core, we don't just speak or just act or just think or just feel. All of these centers fit in together to make us who we are, to form this integrated human that ultimately reacts and interacts with the world. The same is true when it comes to wealth. Our financial behavior is very much shaped by these 3 centers of expression, which is why we use this in our reporting and ultimately in that life aim model that Scott showed you, to be able to understand the client, to be able to understand what your mindset is. It is by no means a tool that we use to be prescriptive around portfolio construction. It's not a case of this is your tri-type, so this is how we're going to construct your portfolio. What it does is it gives the advisors, Anthony, the amazing ability to cut through the clutter of a client. We walk into a room when it comes to wealth with all sorts of masks and all sorts of things, particularly when it comes to money, because it's very often ego driven. And our defense mechanisms are out there doing their thing and protecting ourselves. And we're not wanting to kind of bring that emotional space to the party. With the Wealth EQ system and the investor profile reports, the advisor is immediately able to see where your tendencies might lie, what your risk profile might look like, how to interact with you, what kind of communication you'll respond best to. As Scott said earlier, am I somebody who likes lots of detail, in which case we're going to send you reports every 2 months and update you constantly? Or am I more of a macro picture person where I'm going to trust the process and I trust my advisors and I want to check in every 2 months? So it really gives us a lovely behavioral outlook around your relationship with wealth, around your relationship with portfolio, the ins and outs of portfolio construction, but on a bigger level, the human behind all of this. What are your fears? What are your anxieties? What are your sticking points? What's maybe holding you back? How do we get you through certain sticking points or certain aspects that are not working or things that don't feel right or trust issues? All of these things that come to the fore with this system. So we talk about this in the terms of the personality of portfolios, the psychology behind our portfolio. And psychology, our mindset, the way we think, our response and our emotional response is very much in every single decision we make around money, around success, raising children, legacy, security. What do I want to leave behind? What does this all mean at the end of the day? Do I see myself in all of this? But then the question is, what drives our values on a deeper level? And this is very much where we work with the Enneagram. So I don't want to go too far deep or far back rather into sort of the childhood aspect of this, but it is an important part of what shapes us. Remembering that the Enneagram is something that we choose at a very young age, generally between the age of birth and about 7. It's that time in our lives as young children where we hear parents talking about separation anxiety, where we suddenly realize that we are not part of the safe little hole that is our primary caregivers or our parents, that we are actually alone in this world, and it's terrifying, and we need to figure out how we're going to make our way through this thing called life. And so we adopt what is effectively our life strategy at that young age. This is what is going to get me through life. These are my fears, and this is what I'm going to do to mitigate them. How do I get the warm, fuzzy, the love, the attention, the recognition, all of those good things we want as human beings? What behaviors do I need to put out to be able to do that? So being able to take that Enneagram system that shapes our values and ultimately how we show up in the world, how we respond to uncertainty, to risk. What does security actually mean to us? How do I behave with money? It underpins every decision we make and every choice we take and every step that we take, informed by this life strategy of my operating system. And this is how I'm going to do things. What the Enneagram gives us is this beautiful ability to be able to sort of stand on the balcony of ourselves, and observe our own process and understand what triggers are coming forward, understand our behavior, our response to something, our reactions to something, our mindset around something, our emotional response to something, and being able to dial that back to that early life strategy that we kind of implemented and instilled in ourselves of, this is my comfort zone, this is from where I operate. When we can get a handle on that, and when we can have that kind of perspective and outlook on ourselves, this is where that self-awareness really starts to kind of take place. Being able to understand my impact on the world, be able to understand what patterns are maybe holding me back, being able to understand what I need to do to be able to take the next step, what is happening in my brain that's maybe not letting me move forward, or what is my emotional space saying about me at this point in time, and how does this relate ultimately to my relationship with money. So I'm going to quickly take you through the 9 types. Again, to those of you who've been here before and who know me now and who are so tired of hearing me speak, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to listen to it all over again. So I will work through it quite quickly, but I just think it's an important aspect that you understand the kind of the drivers behind each of these types. Remembering that we are not just a particular type, we have all 9 in us, which is why as I speak, a lot of you will resonate with all 9 types. It's why we at Calio work with the tri-type, because we are complex human beings, because we are so nuanced. We want to understand those different layers that exist within the human. So to give you an overview, our Enneagram 1s, known as the strict perfectionist, conscientious, perfectionist, critical, and very self-controlled. The 1s have got a very strong sense of right and wrong. There's a right way of doing things and a wrong way of doing things. And by the way, the right way is my way of doing things. Very much about doing the right thing, very much driven by integrity, morals, ethics, what is appropriate, what we should be doing, and very much about standards and perfection. They hold themselves to a very, very high standard, the 1s. Their fear in life, their fear as a young child was about being imperfect, making mistakes, being flawed morally or otherwise. So what do I do to mitigate that? I work towards being as perfect as possible. Very much about not making mistakes. You know, the world is a flawed and imperfect place. It is my job to make it perfect. And this is very often projected onto the people around them as well. You know, the 1s can come across as being quite micromanagey and pedantic and meticulous and fastidious, but they can also be quite judgmental and quite critical. They are the people that will pick up the typo in a presentation. You know, they are the people that have to correct the mistake. They need to right the wrong. So very much driven by maintaining that standard and doing the right thing. There's a huge sense of responsibility on the 1s, which is often why they micromanage, because if I do it, I know it's done properly. I know it's done my way. I know it's done perfectly and to the standard I need it to be done at. And then there's no room for error or potentially for me looking like I've made a mistake. So that intuitive edge of the 1, very much flaws, faults, imperfections, judgment. I must do the right thing. I need to improve the world. But it very much comes from a place of love, which is one of the things I love about Enneagram 1s. You know, they very much are wanting to create positive change. And this is why with people, the people around them in their lives as well, there is this drive to perfect. I want you to be the best version of yourself. So do it my way. My way is the perfect way. We know it works. We've done it. We've tried it. We've tested it. You too will also be close to perfect if you do it this way. So it really is this need and this want to improve the world, to create positive change, and to use my correctness, my morals, my integrity to model that good behavior, to do the right thing. You know, what this looks like in terms of the wealth space, the strict perfectionist We call this the ethical investor. So the strengths around this type, very much about being disciplined, doing the right thing, careful budgeting, responsible investing. There is a long-term focus with the one as well, particularly if there is trust involved. If I trust my advisor, if I trust the plan, if I trust the portfolio, they are very much the people that can stay in it for the long game. The challenges around that type one very often is perfectionism, overanalysis, reluctance to take risks. They can be overly critical of, as I say, the outside world, very much of themselves as well, terrified to make a mistake, terrified to do the wrong thing. That ethical kind of undertone comes in. We see it a lot in portfolios where I want to invest in good things. I don't want to add to the trauma of the world. I want to invest in ethical companies. I want to do good things with my money. I want to create change with my money because I can. The practical tips around those ones, being able to embrace flexibility in budgets. They can be very process driven, very kind of procedure driven, doing the right thing, as I said, and quite inflexible. They can be quite rigid, the ones, because I know it works and I figured this out and I've worked hard to perfect it. Being able to be flexible, being able to roll with the markets a little bit, being able to weather the storms when we need to, is where that one will find its balance. And being able to practice self-compassion. It's okay if it didn't work out. It's okay if it wasn't the right decision. We learned the lesson. We are agile. We keep going. We keep moving, and we do it better next time. So that's really where that kind of one will find its safety in the sense of the wealth space. So that is known as our ethical investor. Our Enneagram 2s, known as the considerate helper. Caring, generous, friendly, warm-hearted, known as our earth angels. These are people that very much have the rest of the world at heart. This is not about me. This is about everybody else. What do you need? How can I be of service? How can I help? How can I fix it? How can I make it better? What do you need from me? They derive real kind of fulfillment from being of service, from being indispensable. I want to be the person you phone at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're in trouble. I want to be the person that you turn to, which often means that the twos can struggle with boundaries. I don't want to say no because I'm going to let you down or I'm going to disappoint you. Then you might not ask me next time, and I can't bear the thought of not being the person that you ask. So they tend to say yes a lot. Boundaries for them can be a very difficult thing. They kind of have this ability to read the room. They've got these wonderful EQs, the twos. They can sense if something is off, if somebody's having a bad day, or if someone's not in a great space. And then it's all about, well, what can I do? Let's make a cup of tea. Let's sit down and talk about it. How can I make it better? How can I make your day? How can I fix it for you? Very much about being invaluable to the people around me, being indispensable to the people around me. Their fear in life, the twos, is not being loved, not being appreciated. So they work really hard for that reciprocity, for that appreciation, for that give and take. For that energy exchange. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to make this happen. But don't forget to thank me at the end of the day. So what this looks like in the wealth space for the twos is known as the conscious investor. Incredibly generous people, charitable, supportive, socially responsible. Often the challenge on that side is the overgiving of the twos because I want to help. And what does money do? It allows me to give. It allows me to fix. It allows me to make other people's lives better. It gives me that freedom. But what we need to understand as twos, as is with our energy levels, if our cups are empty, we are no good to anybody. So being able to kind of make sure that I'm not neglecting my own needs, making sure that my decisions around wealth are not entirely emotional, because the twos are naturally emotional people. They sit in what we call the heart center. So that is very much often an emotional response to wealth. My nephew needs new school shoes, or my best friend really needs help with whatever, needs to fix her car. The immediate response of that too is to go, oh, I can help because I've got the money, I can do that. Being able to realize as a two that unless my own cups are full, I actually cannot help other people. Paying myself first, answering my own needs first, setting boundaries for generosity, and being able to prioritize my own financial health, because ultimately that empowers me to come back and be the best two that I can be, which means being able to give and help and be of service. So that is our conscious investor, which is our type 2. Our Enneagram 3s, known as the competitive achievers on the Enneagram, sort of from a childhood experience, these are often people who either came from a family of high performers, achieving is and success is just what we do, or they come from a background of, well, a very early realization that no one, there is no silver platter or silver spoon. No one is coming to do this for me. I'm going to have to make a success out of my life on my own. So very driven people, very goal-oriented people, very action-oriented people, as it says there, ambitious, focused, adaptable, and they can be quite shrewd when they need to be as well. But very much this motivation towards getting things done, efficient, productivity, a million balls in the air. The threes, unfortunately, are highly competent. It's that give it to the busy person, they'll get it done. That's your threes. Also, can fall prone to burnout, to overwhelm, to kind of shut down and procrastination sometimes, but very much that kind of volition of achieving goals. And it's not just about what the world sees. Well, it's not just about what's on paper. Perception, reputation, the right crowd is also very important to the threes. I must be successful. I must be productive. These are the people that can be training for Ironman and studying their MBA and running a corporate team or a business all at the same time. And they've totally got it. Like that ambition, that that kind of energy is there. Being able to know when to switch off, being able to know, when it's time to step down or to stand back, being able to know when to take the time out, is something that the three needs to kind of make friends with, because there's a sense of, I've got to always be on and I've got to be performing and I've got to be in the front, because if I'm not in the front, I fall behind. And if I fall behind, I'm not worth anything. The world values winners. And if I'm not valuable, if I'm not bringing my A game, then who am I and what is the point to all of this? So very much driven by that need to succeed, to be recognized. And this is often where the three comes through in terms of the wealth space of, I also need to make sure that I'm projecting the right image. So the threes can be the people who will go out and buy a R1 million car because it fits with the image. It is what I need people to see. It's what I need people to understand. Something to just kind of caveat this, and it always comes up for me with the threes, because there is often, some of you might be looking at this going, yeah, I think I'm a three, but gosh, no, I'm not that showy, or I don't really, I don't need that sort of public recognition, and I'm certainly not going to go out and drop R1 million on a car. Remembering with the Enneagram, just to confuse things further, we have something called the subtype. There are 3 different subtypes in the Enneagram. I'm not going to go too deeply into it today, but these 3 subtypes really do vary each enneatype quite drastically. It explains why 1 3 can look quite different to another 3. So if you are resonating with what I'm saying here in terms of that 3, but going, yeah, but I'm not really that showy and I really don't want to, I don't need all that recognition and kind of public praise, then you probably a self-preservation 3, where it's more about that internal drive, the internal goal setting, and pushing myself, driving myself. Yes, it's great if I'm recognized and seen. The social 3s are really the ones that want to be seen in that public perception and that persona. So productivity, performance, success, all of those things, we call it the performance investor for a reason. So the strengths of this investor, they are very goal driven. They want to see their ROI. They want to see money working for them, and preferably quite soon, please. Very adaptable people, we call them the chameleons. They have this ability to kind of morph into whatever the world needs them to be. It's this incredibly charismatic quality of the threes, this ability to kind of be dropped in any group of people and look like I've always belonged there. That ability to sense and to know what I need to do or who I need to be or what I need to come forward as in this group of people versus that group of people, how to get the best out of those situations. So highly adaptable when it comes to market changes as well. They will kind of hang in there, watch what happens. There's not this kind of impulsive, anxious response to market changes that we see in some of the other enneatypes. The challenges of the 3: sometimes overspending on that R1 million car because it looks good. That risk of burnout, never switching off, not knowing when to kind of take a day off at least. Prioritizing those short-term games because it's very much about the win, sometimes the quick win, sometimes getting there first, and it doesn't matter how we get there or how unethical I need to be able to get there. They can sometimes prioritize those short-term gains and wins over that long-term stability or sustainability. And then the practical tips for those 3s, being able to focus on those long-term goals over the short-term wins and status. And then very much being able to balance that work and personal life is a big thing for the 3. So driven by work, so driven by yes, success and achievement, but we also often find with the threes that they throw themselves into work, they throw themselves into productivity, because then I get to avoid feelings at the same time. The threes can be very focused on the outcome, the ROI. This is the sales manager that sits in a meeting and goes, yeah, no, I'm sorry, to hear that you've got pneumonia. I heard you haven't been well, but I'm going to need to know what's in that pipeline. What's happening with this client? Where are we with that? It's this never switch off, never say die. Finding the balance in that home, in that work and personal life, is a very important thing for that three as well. So that is our performance investor. Looking to our Enneagram fours, known as the intense creatives. These are, often the kids who kind of felt like the weird kids at school. I'm not quite sure where I fit. I'm not quite sure where I belong, but also kind of looking at the situation and going, but I don't want to be part of all of you sheep. You all look the same and sound the same and act the same. I'm different. There's something unique about me. So there's this kind of sense from a very early age, a very young age with the fours, um, there's a cognizance of my uniqueness, of my authenticity. There is a very deep connection, they're very affected by their environment, the world, what's going on around them. There's a desire to be part of the world, part of something bigger than themselves. I want to express myself. I want to create beauty in the world. They are very often the people that will stop you and go, oh, can you smell the rain on that tarmac? Isn't it just amazing? They are the stop and be in the moment people, very much about authenticity, individuality, similar to the twos in the sense that they've got that lovely EQ and that ability to tune into emotions. But what's different about the four is that they're very in tune with their own emotions. The twos are very much about, this is not about me, this is about you. Let's talk about you. The fours are people who can wake up and have 16 emotions before midday kind of thing. Very much connected to that. And again, that sense of the outside world. I've woken up and the sky is gray, so I'm feeling gray. So I'm going to write a poem about it and post it on Instagram, and maybe that'll help somebody else feel a little bit lighter today. So this need to self-express, this need to see myself in the world around me, individuality. In the wealth space, this kind of authenticity very much pulls through in terms of purpose and meaning. What does this all mean? I can't take my fortuna to the grave with me at the end of the day. What is the legacy I'm leaving behind? What is the footprint I'm leaving behind? So this alternative investor has a very, very different outlook on what money means to us. The fours are also the people who will run out and buy a piece of art for R1,000,000 because it spoke to me. It made me feel something. So this connection with myself, this connection, this need to express and see myself, is very much something that pulls through into the wealth space for that four as well. Unique investment choices, very creative strategies. Does this have the right impact? Does this have the right meaning? Is this me? Do I see myself in this portfolio? Again, what is the legacy I'm leaving behind? The challenges can sometimes be that emotional spending, inconsistent decisions. The fours can sometimes battle with envy a little bit, this comparison. Why can't I be more like that? Or why couldn't it have gone like that for me? Or why, so being able to kind of be in myself and be true to myself and my authentic self is where that four will find balance. Being able to develop a consistent financial routine, not be overly affected by my emotions or how I'm feeling. And again, addressing those emotional spending triggers that often come up with that four heart. But empathy, expression, authenticity, all very important to the fours. Our Enneagram fives, known as the quiet specialist, these are very much people who, from an early age, have a sort of an agreement with their parents. There's an agreement of, I'm not going to ask too much of you if you don't ask too much of me. There's an autonomy that kind of sets in quite early on. There's a sense of, I need to make sense of the world. I need to question why things work the way that they do. I need to understand the context. Give me the facts, give me the figures, give me the data, give me the information. This is what Scott was referring to earlier with Alex and his lovely five brain that loves to deep dive into the detail. The more information you can give me, the better. Knowledge is power for that five brain. The five is that brain is like a take-a-lot warehouse. There is so much going on up there, and everything is compartmentalized, and everything is stored where it should be. And they've been storing information up there for years and years and years. So it's a very important aspect for the fives to be able to kind of disconnect from the world. I need to recharge my batteries. There's a very strong sense of resource with the fives. How much time have I got? How much energy have I got? How much social battery have I got? How much money have I got? Because at the end of the day, that makes me independent. I don't want to have to rely on anybody else. So there's this kind of fear of being exhausted, of having my resource taken from me. But they are incredibly empowering in the sense that they love to share knowledge. They love to teach. They love to impart wisdom. But their social batteries is something that they keep a very, very strong kind of handle on and feeding that five brain. So very private people, quite cerebral in that sense, that this need to click up into my brain. Music is often a lovely escape for the fives. You'll find them in behind a closed door in their man cave or in a closed boardroom with their noise cancelling headphones on, deep diving into something that they're super interested in. They are often people that find the world quite overwhelming and quite demanding. But if I can make sense of it, and that's where that need for information comes in, then I feel safe, then I feel equipped, then I feel independent and autonomous at the end of the day. So I need to understand and I need to conserve my resources. In the wealth space, we call this the analytical investor. Oh dear, we've lost off the page over there. Strengths of this analytical investor, very thorough in terms of their research. The fives can be tricky in the wealth space as well because nobody knows more than I do. I've done all the research. I've gotten all the information I need. Don't you tell me how this is going to go. They can also suffer from a little bit of analysis paralysis, overthinking, because as the fives will attest, there is no such thing as enough information. We can always do more research. We can always get more, more stats, figures, data, facts, whatever that I might need to kind of feed that lovely brain. Very data driven, very frugal in terms of their spending, the fives as well. They can actually live with very little, the fives. Material resource is not a big thing to them. It's more that resource of time, space, energy, finances that are important to them. Challenges again in the wealth space, often oversaving, forgetting that we actually have money to enjoy, to spend, to be able to, invest in our lives, a little bit of adventure here and there. So they do tend to kind of hold on to that resource. That analysis paralysis, again, that can lead into inaction, missed opportunities when it comes to investments, ruminating on things too long, being able to ask ourselves as the fives, because we are reluctant to spend, and we can sometimes live in that financial isolation that is fed by numbers and information, being able to say to ourselves, how much information is enough? How much do I need to be able to move forward? How much do I need to be able to make a decision, to move the needle, to get things going again and get out of my head and out of that kind of stuckness that can be that analysis paralysis. And that is very much what we call our analytical investor. So, these are our clients when it comes to our portfolio construction. We know that they're going to need sufficient information. We know that they're going to need to understand the strategy behind this. We know that they are going to want to or will be able to play the long game. And take on that long-term planning. We also know that they may be overthinking things, and this is where that stuckness might come in, the inability to take the decision or to push the button or to move the needle. How do we work with that particular investor in that sense? So this is all the information that we garner from this assessment and ultimately the investor profile. Moving on to our Enneagram sixes, this is known as the loyal skeptic. These are people that are very much about community. There's a sense of wanting to belong. There's a sense of wanting to be part of something bigger than myself. I want to work towards something bigger. The greater good is often a thing for the sixes. So they often surround themselves with people that are very much like them, reliable, loyal. There's a duty of care. There's a responsibility that comes with the six. Often there's a thin veil of trust that can also happen with that six. They all tend to test people a little bit before they let them in. How long before you betray me? How long before you leave me? But once you are kind of in that fold of trust with the six, it's very much about safety and security. They have this kind of spidey sense of the world around them, this ability to sense a threat or sense a risk or sense if something is off. The sixes are very much the what if people. Have we planned? Have we thought this through? Are we prepared? What is the worst case scenario? So very much about being one step ahead. It can be a difficult brain. It's sometimes the brain where people will look at them and go, but why are you worrying about that? That's never going to happen. That sixth brain is going, but it could happen. And if it does happen, we need to be prepared for it to happen. So very much aware of potential threats, risks, things that can go wrong. And as I said, very much about creating those levels of trust with, be it an advisor, friends, whatever that might look like, because that ultimately makes me feel safe and secure and stable in my environment. What this looks like in terms of an investor is what we call the cautious investor. So the strengths of this investor, again, prudent savings, saving for a rainy day, always being, one step ahead, planning ahead, cautious investments. I need to trust this. This needs to feel right. I need to trust my advisor, and obviously intense financial planning. Safety is key for the sixth cautious investor. The challenges on the blind spots on the other side, are obvious. That over cautiousness, the overthinking of things. It is the wing of the five. It sits right next to the five. So very often these two brains can feed each other. The anxiety of the sixth that happens around the, what if we haven't prepared, I haven't planned, I don't understand, this is feeling unsafe. We click immediately into that five brain that then goes, right, let's go and figure this out, get all the facts, figures, data, information that we can, and then we can make a decision that is less anxious, unless we get stuck in that analysis paralysis and we bounce between these kind of overwhelm and anxiety back into overinformation, back into overwhelm and anxiety. So something to watch for those of us with a 5-6 brain. Those decisions can feel quite anxious if I'm not understanding this or if this doesn't make sense to me. So those practical tips for the 6, being able to take calculated risks. Securing yourself with a secure base of information, a safe base of information that feels right, where I understand the situation, and then being able to take that risk based on that level of security and safety. And again, the second layer to that, managing that anxiety through education, knowledge, empowering myself, understanding it, asking questions. The 6s can be quite forceful in that sense. They really can push back. You will never be able to bully a 6 into doing anything, or, they are the people that will come forward and go, no, but why? But I don't understand. But why are we doing it this way? But you said this yesterday, now suddenly it's this today. Help me make it make sense. Help me feel safe. And until they feel safe, they will push and they will push and they will push the 6s. So again, for us, when we work with an Enneagram 6 in the wealth space, knowing that we need to supply them with a trusted base of information from where they can operate, because they immediately feel supported and guided by us. Our Enneagram 7s, known as the enthusiastic visionary. These are the big thinkers on the Enneagram. These are often people who come from a background where we were not allowed to express our negative emotions. There's that kind of parental narrative of, I'll give you something to cry about. We only talk about good things. We only express our best side. We put our best foot forward. So that is very much that gift of the 7, is to reframe. It's all going to be fine. They tend to avoid awkward situations. They want freedom. They want empowerment. They want to enjoy life. They are the YOLO people and the FOMO people. For those of you that don't know, FOMO, fear of missing out. You only live once. The 7s invented it. Very much about the future, very much about opportunity and possibility and the way forward. Do not take my freedom from me. So very much about being able to do what I want to do and when I want to do it. Very often the 7s are the people, because they avoid anything negative, financial conversations are often quite difficult for the 7s. And again, this beautiful understanding we garner from the system, knowing when a 7 walks into the room, that this is probably an uncomfortable space for them, and they're probably going to sugarcoat it and make it sound amazing. And yes, I've totally got savings, meanwhile they've got nothing. We know that that's often the mask that can come with that 7. Very often the 7s are people who we know we've got to build a little bit of a fund in for them, because the last thing you want is for a 7 to phone you and go, hey, listen, I need to buy an SUP tomorrow because I'm flying to Portugal on a Wednesday. And us going, well, no, actually, sorry, your money's tied up. You're not going to be able to access that until next week. Immediately, you have taken my freedom from me. You have taken my autonomy from me. That's not going to work for the 7. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So for the 7, that money and wealth very much represents freedom and being able to live life on my own terms. So we call this the flexible investor in Wealth EQ. Very much about that optimistic outlook, opportunistic, diverse investments, entrepreneurial ventures, very adaptable, very flexible, very able to kind of roll with the punches, and being able to put a positive spin on things. I want to experience it, and hey, if it was a disaster, at least we tried. It was a good story, kind of thing. The challenges of that seven are conversely impulsive spending, with this kind of YOLO attitude that can happen. We'll spend it all today and worry about that tomorrow. We might not be here tomorrow, so we won't have to worry about it at all. So there can be that lack of long-term planning sometimes because we live for the moment, and we live for that instant gratification. The sevens can be a little bit hedonistic at times. And they obviously gives that kind of potential for financial recklessness and overextension, is our lovely flexible investor. Joy, experience, and freedom is what they look for. So that is our seven. Our Enneagram eights, known as the active controller. These are, again, often people who came from a childhood of very often we see them being either the firstborn or the lastborn in a kind of a sibling series. Very often there is a sense of there's an absent parent, or I was off at boarding school, or dad was working shifts, or what have you. But there's just this sense of having to have grown up quite quickly, and I need to have my finger on the pulse. I need to be in control of my world. So it's very much about being the master of my universe, being in control of my world. So they are very assertive people, very self-assured people, very confident people. They are very comfortable in conflict situations as well. In fact, the eights love a good fight every now and then. Very much about honest communication, direct communication. Don't tell me what to do. Again, I'm the master of my universe. So incredibly confident in that sense. Natural leaders. It's about being strong. It's about avoiding weakness. The fear of the eight is vulnerability. And appearing to be weak. So they tend to really come through to the world with a strong exterior. I'm tough, I'm fierce, I've got this. Very protective in terms of their people as well. So this is often where we see with the eights, finances mean that I can protect my people. I can keep my people safe. They are the justice fighters on the Enneagram. These are often our lawyers and our activists and our advocates and that sort of thing, fighting injustice, taking down the bully, standing up for what I believe in, taking on an abuse of power, anything along those lines. The eight will quite literally put their body on the line for it, and the avoidance of being weak at all times. So very much, I always tease my eight clients and I say to them, if you're under the control or under the guidance and the support of an eight, they will bury a body with you. But if you betray an eight, remember that they can bury a body, because as much as they are loyal, if you betray them, if you lie to them, if you are not who you said you were, or you don't do what you said you were going to do, that wall, we call it the wall of Siberia with the eights, can also go up immediately, and you are done. You live there now. You're never coming back. So very much about that self-protection, that armor that goes up, and very often it's around you discovered my biggest secret, which with the eights no one is supposed to know about, which is that they actually have super mushy hearts, very soft people, quite emotive people often as well. But there is this kind of barbed wire, armored approach that comes with that, because that is my weakness, as they see. So how does this translate into the wealth space? I must be strong. I must be in control. Very bold and decisive investors, also difficult to tell them what to do. Strong financial leadership, very much the risk takers of the Enneagram, especially if they know that there's a high reward at the end of the day. They are very much macro picture people. Don't get me stuck in the detail. Don't get me drilled down into the nitty gritty. I want the big picture. I want the macro picture. And more than anything, I want to see movement. I want to see action happening. Very, very big in terms of moving the needle, making things happen. The anger with that eight is very often channeled into action and getting things done. So the challenges that come with that eight is also often over control, power struggles. I'm the strongest one here. I'm the toughest one here. Don't you tell me what to do. So being able to sit back, being able to kind of take a step back is where that eight will find balance. Trust in our advisor, trust that this person knows what they are talking about, and possibly knows more than me. Those practical tips. being able to delegate financial tasks to trusted advisors. We must trust them. And that financial collaboration, again, this master of my own universe thing that happens with the eight, being able to look to that team dynamic, being able to get that perspective of the people around me, listening, understanding, and making action out of that is where that eight again will find its balance. So that is our assertive investor. And last but certainly not least is our Enneagram nines. And these are known as our adaptive peacemakers. In terms of a childhood story, very often people who didn't realize necessarily, but there was an observation that if there is discord, there is disconnect. If there's conflict, people leave me. So I need to keep the peace. I need to keep the balance. I want stability. I want go with the flow. I want harmony in my world. So they are very easygoing people, non-aggressive, accommodating people, very much about creating a harmonious environment, very much about being a safe space for the people around them. I want to connect. I want to unify. I want everyone to get along. I want everyone to treat each other with respect. So what we do see with the nines sometimes is this ability to do what we call blending. And it is a blind spot of the nines because I want harmony and I want flow and I want us all to get on. They can lose themselves a little bit to this tendency to blend and to accommodate. Very often taking on the habits and the opinions and the preferences even of the people around me, often my intimate partner, because it's just easier that way. It can be something like, I drink red wine because my husband drinks red wine. And when we go to a restaurant, we just order a bottle of red wine. I don't need to bother the waitress for anything else. Everyone's happy kind of thing. But what to watch for in terms of this kind of very much conflict avoidant person is losing my voice at the end of the day. Yes, they want guidance. Yes, they want to trust in the people around them. But being able to speak up and go, no, I don't like it this way. I like it that way. Or this is how that needs to be. Or this is how I'm feeling. Or no, I don't want to do it, in that sense, is where that nine will find balance. Because very often the kind of initial instinct is to go, oh, yes, that's fine. Okay, let's do it that way. Well, you decide, okay, well, I'll trust your opinion because I don't want to rock the boat. It's not worth causing conflict around. Being able to find my voice doesn't necessarily mean I need to suddenly engage in conflict or be aggressive, but being able to stand up for what I believe in, being able to put my voice on the table is a very important aspect for that adaptive peacemaker, for that lovely harmony creator who doesn't want any conflict in their lives. So we call this the adaptive investor. The nines have this incredible ability to see perspective. There's an incredible ability to be flexible. It's about hearing the voices around the table, seeing all sides of the story, understanding all aspects to a situation. So this very much this collaborative approach to investing. They want stable financial habits. They want to know that they are safe. They need to trust that there is harmony and flow within that portfolio. Very much comes with that balanced investing. The challenges around that, as I said, is that passivity. You decide, I'll go along with whatever you want. I trust you. You make the decision. Because that is all in order to avoid that conflict, what feels like might be conflict. And procrastination is something that the nines will often deal with as well. This very much will come from a place of overwhelm, too many decisions, too many things going on, too many, a conflict situation I'm trying to avoid. And they go into this kind of shutdown state of inertia and procrastination where they battle to make decisions or battle to pull themselves out of it. Being able to make small but proactive financial steps, address that financial procrastination and voicing what I want. This doesn't feel right, or I would like more of that, or less of this, or this is how I want that to go, or this is what I need to see in 6 months' time. Being able to state my case and my preference, again, is where that lovely adaptive investor is ultimately going to find its harmony and its balance. So why does this all matter? You've got an idea now of the 9 types, how they kind of pull through in life. I mean, it's a that was really a kind of scratching the surface in terms of what the system does. Within the wealth space and why this matters over here, exactly as I've been saying, it underpins every single financial decision we make, and we don't realize it. And this is where the work that we do, the intelligence modeling that we do at Calio Consulting is so valuable and so important because we take in the integrated whole person. We don't just look at your core number. We look at your tri-type. We look at your subtype. We look at the other influencing factors within your profile. We look at your stress and strain level. We look at which centers you are using the most. What is informing your current decisions? What is driving the bus at this point in time? What is driving your decisions? How much risk you tolerate, how quickly you make decisions, how comfortable you are with uncertainty, how you respond to that market volatility, whether we lean naturally towards a growth mindset or a preservation mindset. So this very much influences whether you spend or save, what opportunities you pursue, where your focus lies, and ultimately how you think about the future. And this is the gift that the Enneagram gives us, this ability to connect with myself, understand my potential triggers, what's coming up for me, why I have this emotional response or this particular mindset or this risk profile, or this action towards wealth. And ultimately, is this working for me? This life strategy that we choose at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, works for us at that point in time. But what works for us at that age is definitely not going to work for us in our 20s, and it's definitely not going to work for us in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. Like any strategy, we have to recalibrate. We have to take a step back and look at ourselves and go, right, what patterns am I still perpetuating from childhood? What money stories am I carrying with myself? What narrative am I carrying with into my adult world, into my legacy planning, into my own family and my own children at the end of the day? We all have a money story. Take a moment to think about what money means to you. To some of us, it means freedom. To some of us, it means autonomy. To some of us, it means safety. What does that money story mean to you? What does wealth mean to you at the end of the day? And is that reflected in my portfolio construction? Is that reflected in how I'm approaching wealth at this point in time? And if it's not working, how do I shift? Where are those shifts able to be made? And this is very much what you will garner from the sessions with us and being able to look at that investor profile that drills right down into these very many layers that sit on top of our Enneagram and ultimately inform our personality and behavior and the way we interact with wealth. And as Scott says, we have a range of kind of different options around how to interact with us and how to engage with us. I'll pop my email in the chat section. But that really is, guys, just a sort of a high level view of what we do. It is so much more nuanced and complex than that. And as Scott said, I really would encourage those of you, I mean, at the very least, to do your wealth EQ and get that investor profile, being able to have that insight into your behaviors around wealth. But if you are able to then take it one step further and have that feedback session with us, it really just cracks the whole thing wide open. You get this beautiful understanding of the layers that exist. And again, that ability to understand where I can possibly shift, what changes can I potentially make, what's working for me currently and what's not, and how is this all pulling through into my relationship with wealth and beyond. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight.
Bianca, wonderful as always, and really I'm getting more. I watch these just by the way because I learn every time, which I really appreciate. There's a question that comes through, and I think it's a question that will come through in the recordings and even in the future. Why the IEQ9? Bianca, I did the report with Joe Soap down the road. Can I just send you Joe Soap's report, and will you give us the Wealth EQ report? Just if we can just clarify that once and for all, because it's already come up in 3 different places.
100%. No, so and it's a great question. Look, the reality is, yes, you can go online and you can find a free Enneagram test and you can do your Enneagram. It will more than likely give you your core, but more than that, you are not really going to get. We work with the IEQ system. One of the reasons we love it is the most robust system in the world. I mean, I've probably done in excess of about 300 feedback sessions in my time, and I don't think I've once had a mistyping or somebody go, no, that's not me, or that doesn't fit, or that doesn't resonate. The system itself is so reliable. It's built by a South African, which is why I love it as well, who is a 5, got that beautiful 5 brain. And the complexity of the system is something that we have come to rely on so much. The system itself, the assessment itself that you will do is about 4,000 questions in total, all of which you obviously don't answer. But it very much works on an algorithm. So depending on how you answered the last question is how they will position the next one, and so on and so forth. And it funnels you down into what we call your core type. the most fundamental thing for me around the IEQ system is that we get access to, as I said, what we call our tri-type. So it's not just about my core and what my operating system is. How do I think? How do I feel? How do I behave? And why is the information that we get from the IEQ9. And that is not something you're going to get anywhere else. You'll get a broad idea of it from those online assessments. And it's not to say that they aren't valuable, but if you really are wanting a robust assessment that gives you accurate information, I think for those of you who've done your Wealth EQ with me, you can attest to the fact that it is incredibly accurate. And it really just provides this beautiful, beautiful insight as to your, the way we work, approach, think, and behave around wealth.
I mean,
Thank you, Scott.
this is what Bianca's talking about. Where, like, when I sat with them and they literally said, "Look, I'm a 7 in my thinking center, but look how low it was." And I told you I was feeling stuck. And this was 2024, by the way. And they said, "Sort this out, and you'll sort your life out." And I literally did. So we don't have time to go into all the detail here, but I'm just trying to give you an example. It's that specific detail. Look, at the end of the day, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Like, you get to choose. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you get free, it's even worse than a monkey. So the point being is that, like, you're paying for the best. You're paying for I was going to say the Mercedes Benz, but maybe we should now go with the Tesla. And in terms of where we're at. And I just think hopefully that answers it. And then I think also what's quite important, and I'm just going to answer it for Bianca as well, is they've built the Wealth EQ on top of the IEQ9 report. Okay, so if you send them Joe Soap's report, now they've got to go and find all the information. Like, it doesn't work. Like, their system just overlays on, boom. Now, why that's important, they've got 2 decades worth of experience in the Enneagram, and Corin is married to Garth, okay? So that is the association. So nowhere else in the world have I found a family office, so they understand money and investment and wealth, and then someone that understands the Enneagram, which is Bianca and Corin. And what they've done is they've married the 2 together. So they've spent months and years developing the IP, and you actually can't find this anywhere else. This doesn't exist anywhere else.
Nothing. Yeah.
Where you've got this marriage together of 2 powerhouses of information, one being the Enneagram understanding, one being the wealth. And that's where, the Enneagram and wealth came together and evolved into the Wealth EQ. So I just want to explain, literally, this is it. If you want that, that's why the Wealth EQ is so important. So I just want to kind of reiterate quickly, just for everyone. So, Bianca's taking you through these slides. I see I need to update my picture because Bianca's got much better ones. At the end of the day, you're going to get 2 reports. You're going to get your Enneagram report, and you're going to get your Wealth EQ report. And, for $97, you literally go to the link, wealthaccelerator.ai. So if I just show you quickly here, and I'll go to it for you. I've got it open here. You literally go, you can go read all about it if you want to. It just explains exactly what you're going to get. But it's really simple. We've made it very affordable and logical, and you can go in and you basically got the option to go in and purchase it. And if you want the upgrade option, which I strongly, strongly recommend, because then you're going to, get the consultation as well, which, as I said, for me was absolutely invaluable. But there it is. It's really simple in terms of that process and helping you go through it. So just to remind you, Wealth EQ report, understand how you think about wealth, risk, control, opportunity. It even goes down to like the level of like, what assets should one be looking at? Once you tie that together with the family office concepts, and then you've got the Enneagram report, which is understanding your personality, patterns, motivations, blind spot. This is everything about that we've been talking about: communication, partnerships, understanding yourself. It's invaluable. Like this report would be invaluable for you also in your life, AI life module in terms of that process. So you can get those reports, $97. And these are the 2 options. So the reports only is $97. And if you want to do the reports plus the assessment, then it's $297. And Bianca's kindly given us the discount fee, which we've offered to, which we negotiated for the mastermind members. So people are getting the same opportunity to be able to get access to this information. And then finally, in terms of the next steps, so step 101, get your reports. So go get the Wealth EQ and purchase the bundle. Step 2, complete the assessments. So in terms of, Bianca will send you out a link, and you'll need to fill in the assessments. Step 3, you'll get back your Enneagram and your wealth, Wealth EQ. And then I'm going to show you, for those of you that are doing the Wealth Accelerator, I'm going to show you how to then put that into your wealth clone. and actually build up your wealth clone, which will make it far more personal and far more powerful. And then if you've done the upgrade, then you will book your one-to-one session with Bianca and her team, and they can actually take you through it. So it's really simple, really easy in terms of the process. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. So
Thank you, Scott.
I just want to, this has a little thing that I just want to fix. I'll just leave that up there for everyone in terms of that process. No, but Bianca, thanks so much. I know you've had a long working day all day, and very kindly come and presented. And I just want to reiterate to everyone, what you're getting access to here, you can't get access to anywhere else in the world. And traditionally, you only got access to this if you had $10 million or more. And I just want to say thank you to you, Bianca, to Callio Consulting, and to Callio Capital, because through the use of technology, we truly are democratizing it. And whether people are part of the mastermind and now have all of these tools, there's a lot of mastermind members online, but they can now feed it into their wealth clone, or they're not part of the mastermind, but we've found a way so that they can come and get access to your reports, Bianca, and they too can feed it into their clone. You know, there's nothing more powerful than working directly with a family office in a personalized one-to-one environment. But for those who can't afford it or don't qualify, at least they can use the technology and the AI to try and integrate the fundamentals and the principles. So I just wanted to say a huge amount of gratitude to you for allowing people to be able to participate.
No, look, we love what we do, and we this is why we do what we do. I just want to respond, if it's okay, to one question very quickly, and it's a very valid one from Richard.
Sorry, we should do questions. I didn't actually see them. Sorry, yeah, no problem.
No, that's all good. That's all good. So there's a couple of questions just further up. One of them was around, I've done my Enneagram through a different system. Can we use that? Which I think we've answered. Another question was from Richard around that he's done his IEQ9 and that there's a level 1 and a level 2. Yes, you're quite right. So the level 1 is the one that we work with. The level 2 we generally use for corporate teams. That's where we do team reports and all sorts of other weird and wonderful things. So we would only work with what you're calling the level 1, which is the 23-page report. The bar chart one that you saw of Scott's is what you get in your feedback session with us. So that is something that we will work through. That is what also informs your investor profile. So that's not something that you will get automatically from IEQ9. Your report is what you will get, and what we call the coaching companion, which is that bar chart looking one, is a separate document. In terms of if you have done your Enneagram through IEQ9 already, it's a very simple process. Get hold of me. We ask for a transfer request. Your profile is transferred to me, and I then have access to your report, your profile, and everything else that we need to be able to take you through the feedback sessions and beyond. So please feel free to reach out to me. You know, if you've got any questions, bianca@callioconsulting.com. I'll put my email address in the chat here. But Scott, as you know, has very kindly put together that link for us. If you're wanting to go right ahead and book that. But really, I'm open to any questions or anything you might have. So please feel free to reach out.
And I think the only thing that I would say to people that are specifically part of the Wealth Accelerator, in the next 4 weeks, we're building the Wealth Clone, rather do this sooner rather than later. Like if I was you, and, I'm not giving you financial advice because this isn't financial advice, this is coaching advice. I would take action right now. I would buy those reports so that, Bianca can get the emails out, in the next day or two, so that you can get you can do the Enneagram report, do it as quickly as you can, because ideally you want to get your report back and you want to get your wealth EQ back so you can feed it back into your clone. So I just want to kind of reiterate the urgency, because you don't have to have it to be part of your wealth DNA, but I would strongly recommend it, because hopefully after the last hour and a bit that Bianca shared, you can see how valuable and important it is to being part of your wealth DNA. So yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think that is everything. Thank you very much, Bianca. And as always, it's a privilege and an honor. And I look forward to everyone getting the insights that they deserve, not only on their own personality, but on their wealth profile. And thank you for making it available to all of them.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely to see everybody, and have a great evening. Thanks, Scott.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Bye.